Number one reason across many years in all the surveys is I don't believe the teachings. And then to specify that, religion and science seem to be at odds with each other.
I come across information in the biological sciences particularly that speak deeply of an intrinsic morality. And you see this, you can look at the work of Frans de Waal, for example, who's a Dutch primatologist, and he's been studying the social interactions of chimpanzees. And chimpanzees share a tremendous genetic overlap with human beings. And from an evolutionary perspective, we diverged from our common ancestor with chimpanzees something like 7 million years ago.
You know, all the sand of the seashore used to be mountains at one time. Now, how long do you suppose it took to grind all the sand of the seashore? Long time. This earth is very old. Boy, it's just hard to understand, though, that even from an evolutionary point of view, modern man has only been here 50,000 years or 100,000 years. Now, it's a little longer than theologians would say Genesis was. They would put it back maybe 6,000, or some would say like 8 to 10. All right, 10 times that, 100,000 is nothing. What is 100,000 years in 4.5 billion? 100,000. It's like, wow, it's nothing. You know, if it's the hours on a clock, you know, it's like 1 second before midnight. Man appeared, and that's what's so amazing. He did just appear, and everybody knows it. This idea that you can link him back and back is nonsense. And most real scientists know it's nonsense. Modern man just showed up. 50 to 100,000 years ago, there was no modern Homo sapien men. And boom, there they were. Where did they come from? Where did they come from? You know? I mean, the dinosaurs, they figured they lived from 165 million years ago to 50 million years ago. 115 million years dinosaurs existed. Mankind, a couple of thousand. Where did he come from? Boom, there's modern man. Where is he over? He's not there. You've got all these other animals, and then you get back to, you know, the lizards and the dinosaurs. There's no men.
And this pertains to something we also talked about discussing, which was the continual drain from the church, the Catholic Church, perhaps in particular, but perhaps not in the West, of young people. And I think part of that is their inability to make intellectual sense of everything that they're faced with, a religious tradition and a scientific tradition, especially on the biological front. But not only that, they don't know where to place these things in their view of the world. I think that's partly why my lectures, because you'd asked about that, had become popular, because I am trying to do that. And
no, I'll say this. You look at the surveys. There's a lot of surveys now that ask young people precisely that question: how come you left? And people speculate, oh, it must be because of the scandals, or because, you know, they had a bad experience in church or something. Number one reason across many years in all the surveys is I don't believe the teachings. And then to specify that, religion and science seem to be at odds with each other. So for young people, the scientific way of knowing is the way of knowing. So it's sort of scientism, at least implicitly, holds sway in the minds of a lot of young people. So once you make that move, knowledge equals the scientific manner of knowing. Well, then the Bible is non-scientific. Therefore, it's, you know, old superstition, Bronze Age mythology, etc.
The whole world of non-believers, and let's specifically talk about the scientific community, the ones who've studied a good bit of the aspects on both sides of this thing. What is one of the reasons they just flat out reject the Word of God? Because of these two-faced, lying, hypocritical theologians. That's why. If somebody suggests to a scientist, you ought to obey the Scriptures or believe the Bible, they say, what? Do you really believe that God created this earth 6,000 years ago? Are you crazy? And here's 5,000 proofs. Here's billions of tons of strata. All of them prove that the earth is very old. You cannot account for 5 miles of sedimentary rocks, which are laid down by water, happening in one flood in a year. Come on. It's just not even conceivable. It took millions and billions of years. So they assume that what teachers teach about the Bible is true. And maybe they never read a word of the Bible, but they know, theologians teach, that God created the heavens and the earth 6,000 years ago in 6 24-hour periods. They know that that's what's taught. And they know that that's foolish nonsense.
We talked a little bit before about the church bleeding its people. They're leaving. The young people are leaving. And my sense of that is it's because the church does not demand enough of young people.
Yeah, I think that's
doesn't
right.
demand enough. And by not demanding enough, it doesn't indicate its faith in their possibility.
So we have the theologians poking fun at the scientists. They're so stupid, they think the earth is billions of years old. They don't know God made it in 6 days. And all these theologians, they look at all this stratification of the earth, and they look at all that. They say it's millions and billions of years. Noah's flood. Gosh, if they just opened the Bible, there is Noah's flood. They laid down all the stratas, It's so simple. No, it's not that simple. And the theologians with their simple little fairy tale genie in a bottle theory is not true. And the scientists thinking that all this came about without some superior, intelligent, powerful, almighty, wise source is also not true. But there is an element of truth in both. Theologians accept that there is a God that did create the heavens and the earth. And evolutionists will try to, evolutionists and or most scientists will try to tell you how it came about without intelligence. But their research, much of it is true. When they go out and they say they found this at this layer of strata, and based on different isotope measurements of different elements that have radiation, and this strata here is 800 million years old. 800 million? It can't even be 8,000, according to theologians, you see. Well, is all that scientific jargon gobbledygook? Or do they know a little bit what they're talking about? It is the scientists, who invent computers and automobiles and rocket ships and pacemakers. These are scientists who do this, not theologians. Many scientists they're just geniuses. You get a PhD in applied physics from MIT. You're in a small category of people. You got to know something. Science is not as stupid as most religious people want to make it out to be. All scientists are not idiots because they believe that the earth is billions of years old and so on. We need to look at what science has found and see whether or not it's sound or not. Some like to speak of science falsely so called, which is a verse in the King James, but not this King James. In the 1611 edition, they took it out. There is no such thing as science falsely so called in the Scriptures. The word is knowledge, not science. So anybody who tries to tell you about the Bible speaks about false science is nonsense.